Good evening, and welcome to my channel. My name's Naomi Rose, and I'm now a children's book author. But more importantly, I'm 10 years ago this month, I became a mom, and I just wanted to get on here for a long time. And I just kept saying, well, maybe when life calms down, I can share. And I'm just going to do it messy. It's never going to really calm down. So I figured, especially in the times that we're living in right now, being a parent is very difficult. And I know it was very isolating when I went through it. And if I could just share a little bit of my story, because there's such power when you share, because then you know that you're not alone. Um, and you know how some movies begin with that crazy, chaotic scene, and then you go and rewind and figure out how you got there to that crazy chaoticness? Yes. So that was my plan for this video series that I'd like to start doing. So to go back, my first video, I did a spoof on my pregnancy. It was not the most pleasurable time. I've got to be very honest. And everybody's experience with pregnancy is different and unique and your own, and there's no right and wrong. Um, and I have to give a big shout out to, at that time, Green Tea Yoga, and Catherine with prenatal yoga was phenomenal. But I joked around as a nurse that I would work up until I gave birth. And that almost happened. So I think it was a Wednesday night, and I was in the float pool and assigned to work in the ICU. And I had an irritable uterus. So from September on, so I would just have these random, like, Braxton Hicks contractions, and I thought I was going into labor. So it began, and I didn't pay much attention because I was just like, well, this is how it's been. And the rapid response nurse was like, it's time. We're going. We're calling the nursing supervisor, and I'm going to take you. And so she did. And she wheeled me to the labor and delivery unit, and I was 3 centimeters dilated, but I got sent home. And they were like, oh, yeah, it's going to be a while. I got the best sleep that particular morning. And then all of a sudden, I woke up at like 5 in the morning the next day. And again, I was just like, oh, okay, I'll just drink some water, have a snack, do all the things that they told you to do. I wasn't due until the 8th, actually. So this must have been around like the 5th or the 6th. And now my child's father had already left for work. And I figured, okay, well, yeah, nothing's gotten better. And the doctor's office wasn't even open yet. So I said, maybe this is it. This is it. So what I decided to do was like, I'm going to make my bed, because when I come back, I'm going to climb in this freshly cleaned bed. That did not happen. Spoiler alert. But so then I was like, who's going to take me to the hospital? And luckily I had a friend who was willing to come and get me and drive me to the doctor's office. She had a Jeep, which I do not recommend going in when you are in labor over potholes. That was very memorable. And I went in to the office, and they said, yep, it's time to go to the hospital. So then I went, and it took forever to even get a human to check me in. And I was dying. It is very painful. So I get a room, and I had already notified like my sister, and of course the father of the baby, and my parents. So my sister was the first to arrive on the scene, and then I think then my parents, and then my child's father. And so they wanted to send me back home. They were like, you can just wait this out. And I was like, what? And I went to the bathroom, and then I let go of my mucus plug, and they were like, oh, I guess you're staying. And so they walked me down the hall, and I wanted a hot shower. And then I had to move my room like 2 times before we found a hot shower. And then, yeah, so it was 22 hours of that natural childbirth, right? And I didn't want like an epidural, and I didn't want all these things. And I remember the best advice my GYN gave me was, don't make a plan. And I really had to start rolling with the punches here. Like, this child was totally in charge of my body. And by around, I don't know, 11 o'clock midnight, after the 22 hours, they wanted to start Pitocin. So I had to just succumb and just say, fine, give me the epidural. And it took a little bit of the edge off, but it was leaking. So I felt the Foley go in, and I felt even more compassion for my patients. So we did all that, and I got a little bit of rest. And by morning, they pulled the Foley. I started pushing for 3 hours, pushing. And yes, it's true. You're going to poop on the table. It's not a big deal. They just roll it up, push it off to the side. But after 3 hours, they were like, oh, he's faced the wrong way. And I'm like, huh, isn't that funny? You couldn't figure that out? Maybe like an hour in, or an hour and a half, 2 hours. But anyway, so 3 hours. And then they were like, we're going to have to do an emergency C-section. So they wheel me into the OR, and this anesthesia guy just ripped off the dressing off the epidural. It was worse than getting like a bikini wax. And then they gave me the spinal. I went numb. I'm down. And, it feels like they're doing CPR in your chest when they get the baby out. And then I didn't hear the cry. And then all of a sudden I did. And it's just like this wave of relief. And I didn't know if the father was actually going to come into the room and do the cord cutting, but he did. And then, they brought the baby over to me, and they're sewing me up. And then all of a sudden the pain medicine wore off, and they had to quickly push more pain meds. And then I thought I was going to throw up. So they're pushing antiemetics, and then they're stapling me shut. They thought they nicked my bladder, all the things. And I just felt like the room was spinning, and they were like, do you want to see your placenta? And I was like, no, but they showed me anyway as they wheeled me back out. And I just remember like the kindness of this nurse giving me a warm face cloth from my face and cleaning me up, and handing me my baby. And it was good for a few minutes and I wasn't in any pain. And my family got to come in and see the baby. It was all good. The biggest takeaways, I guess, would be, you get, again, letting go of a plan. The baby will come in its own way, and everybody's got their own birth story. And then please bring a pair of throwaway flip-flops so you can get around and even shower. And then I brought in my own heating pad, because I got to be honest, the hospital heating pads, they're lukewarm at best. So, I felt like I got hit by a truck after things wore off. I couldn't even move him from one to the next. I had to have somebody hand him to me because everything hurt. And they were like, oh, honey, you pushed for 3 hours? That's like running a marathon. I was like, I'm not a runner. No, I'm not. And so, but they kept trying to help me, and the breastfeeding was not going well. I will say this too. They keep offering. They're like, don't forget, if you need any help, just be sure to book an appointment with us and we'd be happy to help you. The lactation consulting, make sure you call your insurance first and make sure that appointment will be covered, because it wasn't. And that led to other issues down the road. But, and then the other big thing, oh my God. So of course I'm on pain medicine because this is major surgery, and I'm trying to fill out the birth certificate. So I would recommend having somebody with very nice handwriting who's not on pain medicine fill out the birth certificate because they screwed up the middle name. And then I had to go down to the town hall and pay $50 to get it changed to the right name. So, avoid things like that if you can. But I think all in all, like, for me personally, I'm glad that I was doing the birth in a hospital, but I if you can do this in the birthing center or at home, wherever you want to do, um, honor what you really want, but then also be willing to don't hold your plan so tightly. That would be my biggest offering of advice, and rolling with the punches. And yeah, I think that's enough for part one. I wanted to keep these things like short and sweet and to the point. And so I hope that was helpful. And just know that this has been done for years and years and years, and you've got this. Because I think I just had so much doubt that I was going to be able to do this. And I will tell you this, I'll end on this. So whenever I'm trying to, get myself waxed, I have to mentally remind myself how badass I am and that I went through 22 hours of natural labor. Like, I can do this. And it helps me. So I hope you're doing well, and thank you so much for watching, and tune in for next time as the journey continues into my motherhood adventure. Bye.